Hi, this is Samir Zulfikar, and you're watching Social Sciences. In sociology, a group is usually defined as a number of people who identify and interact with one another. This is a very broad definition as it includes groups of all sizes, from diets to whole societies. A group in sociology exhibits cohesiveness to a larger degree. Aspects that members in the group may share include interest, values, ethnic linguistic background, roles, and kinship. We can say that two or more individuals who perceive themselves as a part of a unit and who both influence each other and are interdependent can be classified as group. One way of determining if a collection of people can be considered as a group is if individuals who belong to that collection use the self referent pronoun we. Using we to refer a collection of people often implies that the collection thinks of itself as a group. Examples of groups include families, companies, circles of friends, clubs. The process of socialization is always there in the group, and this socialization helps individuals to develop a sense of groupiness that can be defined as a degree to which a collection of individuals is group like. Now, the question is why we join groups. The answer is obvious that groups are so pervasive that we can't imagine our life without them. They satisfy our need of belongingness and affiliation, help to accomplish tasks that individuals alone can't do, and provide protection to its members. That's why we always join groups. We make different choices to join or not to join a particular group based on our calculations. Take the example of a football player. If he has to choose between football club or golf club, he will definitely choose the football club because it is the place where he can get a chance to improve his skills and make association with other football players too. There are different types of groups such as primary groups, secondary groups, formal groups, informal groups, referent groups, and many more. We're going to discuss these all groups one by one. So let's get started with primary groups. Primary groups, these are small groups in which people interact over a relatively long period of time on a direct personal basis, such as family. The goal of primary group is actually the relationships themselves rather than achieving some other purpose. And the secondary groups are the ones in which interaction is impersonal and temporary. Often, personal involvement is limited and tend to be organized around specific goals. Some secondary groups may last for many years, though most are short term. Such groups also begin and end with very little significance in the lives of the people involved. People in a secondary group interact on a less personal level than in a primary group. Rather than having as the goal the maintenance and development of the relationships themselves, these groups generally come together to accomplish a specific purpose. Since secondary groups are established to perform functions, people roles are more interchangeable. Example of secondary groups include classmates in the college course, athletic teams, and co-workers. Another type of group is the formal group. It is a group having its own rules, regulations, norms, guidelines, and these guidelines determine and control the activities of its members in a rather rigid manner. Class in a school is a perfect example of this group, where each student is instructed to follow certain rules and regulations of a particular school. The next type is informal groups. An informal group does not have a definite norm, rules, and regulations. There is more freedom in the informal group than its counterparts, and one can develop his own role in accordance with his choices. Next is our common identity groups. These are primarily based on the attachment members have to group itself rather than the other members. For example, ethnicities and nationalities. Next, we have common bond groups. These groups primarily based on the attachments members have to each other. rather than to the group itself. For example, sports teams, student councils, etc. Reference groups are the groups that a reference group is a group that is used as a standard against which we compare ourselves, would be a reference group. Take the case of someone who grew up in a poverty stricken neighborhood. If all friends and relatives were in the same situation, just scraping by, she may not have considered herself poor at the time. Reference groups can also serve to enforce conformity to certain standards. A college freshman who has his heart set on joining a prestigious fraternity on campus may adopt behaviors and attitudes that are accepted by members of that particular fraternity. Next, we are going to discuss about in-groups and out-groups. Groups exist by virtue of their being out-groups. For a collection of people to be a group, there must be other people who are not in the group, or people who are in specific out-groups. We take the example of academics versus politicians and academics versus non-academics. In this sense, social groups are categories of people, and just like other categories, a social category acquires its meaning by contrast with other categories. The social world is patterned by social discontinuities that mark the boundaries of social groups in terms of perceived and or actual differences in what people think, feel and do. Discuss about the key features of the group. Perception of group membership is very necessary, which means that individuals must consider themselves as a member of a group. Cohesiveness is the another important element. Cohesiveness is the strength of the bond that hold group members together and keep them in group. The third one is intuitivity. Cohesive groups are easily identifiable. That means that any outside observer can easily conceptualize the particular collection of individuals as a true group. And the next one is groups have certain social norms. Norms are unwritten rules about the behavior of people. Groups usually possesses common social norms in which members of the group behave in almost a similar way. People belonging to a group take on certain roles either voluntarily or group bounded them to do so, and they act according to set norms of the particular group. For example, being a worker of a particular company, you need to follow the set regulations of that particular company. You can't challenge those norms. You have to follow all the given norms to survive in that particular group. Groups can improve or degrade the performance of its members. When important tasks need to be performed quickly or effectively, we frequently create groups to accomplish them. Many people believe that groups are more effective than individuals in performing tasks. The case in which performance of the individual improve is dealt under the term of social facilitation. In one of the earlier social psychological studies, Norman Triplett investigated how bicycle racers were influenced by the social situation in which they raced. The racers who are competing with other cyclists on the same track rode significantly faster than those who were racing alone against the clock. This led Triplett to hypothesize that people perform tasks better when the social context includes other people than when they do the task alone. The tendency to perform tasks better or faster in the presence of others is known as social facilitation. The mere presence of the individual affects the overall performance, and the presence of others while one is performing a task led to psychological arousal, which in turn affects how well the person performs. Evaluation apprehension, concerns about how others are going to judge one's performance, also put positive impact on the individual's performance. On the other hand, social inhibition is the tendency to perform tasks more poorly or slower in the presence of others. And so as the presence of others, people can both improve and worsen individual performance. It is important to explore the different conditions that promote these opposite outcomes. Social inhibition can be observed in social loafing when individuals exert less effort when working in a group and as opposed to working alone. This condition is known as social loafing. The main explanation for social loafing is that people feel unmotivated when working in a group because they think that their contribution will not be evaluated at any cost. The next one is the free riding. It is the condition when group members exert little or no effort because they believe that their contribution to the group task is dispensable or not important to the overall group output. So, the overall efficiency of the group decline that affects the whole group negatively. Individuation. It is the condition in which boundary between individual and a group temporarily dissolved. Psychological state characterized by loss of self-awareness and the sense of personal responsibility. This can happen as a result of becoming a part of a group such as an army or mob, but also as a result of meditation. It can have quite destructive effects sometimes, making people more likely to commit a crime like stealing or even over-enforce the law such as police in right situations. We are going to discuss about group decision making, how groups took its decisions on daily basis. Group decision making is a type of participatory process in which multiple individuals acting collectively analyze problem or situation, consider and evaluate alternative courses of action and select from among the alternatives a solution or solutions. Orientation discussion decision implementation model states that the decision making process consists of 4 stages. The first one is orientation. Orientation is the phase in which groups should invest some time in examining the issues itself, being careful to review the fit between the issue and the group missions. This phase involves exploring the nature of the problem, identifying goals sought, and inventorying the group's talents and available resources. The second stage is all about discussion. When group talks over a problem, that they pool the information needed to formulate a decision and identify possible alternatives for action and debate the relative advantages and disadvantages of the option. And in the second last stage, they go for the decision. The group should reach closure on the issues by making a decision. Some methods for making choices can be decided by the group itself. And in the last stage, implementation. After making a decision, the group develop a concrete form of action, determine who in the group is interested and able to do further planning, implementing and evaluating of the action. A group also experience process loss, that is the reduction in the ability of a group to engage in good problem solving that stems from shortcomings in group interaction. This problem can be solved by effective leadership. With the leader's involvement, process loss can be minimized. Numerical minority in a group changes the attitudes, beliefs, or behaviors of majority and bring out positive results for the whole group. So this is all about groups. Next, we're going to study about conformity, how sociologists think what is conformity and how it is impacting our lives. Thank you so much. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe to my channel.